Are you absolutely fed up with losing weight just to gain it all back, just to lose it, just to gain it back again, and sometimes even more so than when you started? In this video, I'm going to discuss the 4 major mistakes that my weight loss clients tend to make when transitioning to a healthier diet and lifestyle pattern. The first mistake that people I work with consistently make is that they bring their baggage with them along trying to make these healthy dietary and lifestyle choices. What I mean specifically is that people tend to bring preconceived notions about anything that they're trying to change or adapt to, regardless of what the subject matter is. But nutrition in particular, because of all of the confusing and conflicting resources and advice out there, you have no idea what's accurate and what's false and who's endorsing what and whether something really is going to benefit your health. It is ridiculous how hard it is to determine what information we should be following. So yes, it's very likely that you are going to have preconceived notions about what is considered healthful around nutrition and the related health or disease outcomes. So some specific examples are things like olive oil and coconut oils are healthy. We need protein powder on a plant-based diet. Humans need meat to thrive. Vegans need to take calcium supplements and iron supplements and fill in the blank. Unhealthful vegan diets are probably very much lacking in these components, but if it's balanced and healthful, then you don't have to worry about these supplements. Some other ideas are that people have to eat 3 meals a day, or that their cravings are going to last forever and they're just going to be miserable and deprived without their old foods if they don't continue maintaining that lifestyle. These are all understandable but very detrimental preconceived notions about nutrition and health or disease outcomes. So the solution is not an easy one, but it can be done over time and with a lot of consistency. So this is to alter your paradigm. You need to really get rid of those old notions and embrace your new, healthy, whole food, plant-based lifestyle. It truly has nothing to do with a diet. It is a way of life. This is something that you continue throughout your lifespan. If you're finding value in this video, make sure you subscribe to my channel. I come out with videos every Monday morning, and they're always based on whole food, plant-based nutrition, resources, and tips. The second huge mistake I see my clients make time and time again is that they forget that the detox and taste adaptation period is temporary. It is very challenging to go through this process of eating those highly palatable pseudo foods to this wholesome natural diet. Some people experience things such as bloating and constipation and diarrhea and headaches, fatigue, brain fog. Nobody wants to feel like that, but it is temporary. This tends to last 3 to 10 days, sometimes longer, sometimes shorter. It all depends on your genetics, your past exposure and experience, and how long you've been ingesting these foods. Some people may have none of these symptoms. Some people may be miserable for up to 2 months on end with incessant cravings and fatigue and digestive issues. But this is very rare. This is not the norm. I've had very few people on that end of the spectrum. More so than not, people have very minimal, if any, of these symptoms. Cravings tend to be the worst. We are animals. Our brain is going to try to get us to move back in the direction of those highly palatable, high-calorie dense foods. A hamburger and french fries is way more appealing to our caveman reality than is a salad. It's important to remember that you're going to feel worse before you feel better, though, in most cases. But you would be surprised how much your taste preferences and tolerance for certain foods are going to change dramatically in the first 3 months. This is such a neat process because people go from absolutely despising certain foods because of, preconceived notions about the texture or the flavor or just the way that it makes them feel after they eat it. But they find that by the end of the 30, 60, or even 90 days, that they tend to start to prefer these foods to the point where they are eating them first thing in the morning for breakfast. It's really a cool process. And that is in turn the solution. Just trust in the process. It is a matter of time before things will fall into place with your taste adaptations and the different biological components that are involved in the microbiome and all the wonderful benefits that you are achieving from following this healthful dietary pattern. The third mistake I typically see is when people try to substitute their old junk foods for these new vegan versions. And that is not going to be very successful in the long term. It may be a transitioning mechanism that I don't even recommend because people tend to get stuck in that phase. I completely understand where your head is at when you try to incorporate these pseudo foods, things like the Impossible Burgers and the vegan meats and cheeses and yogurts and ice cream and all of those things that say organic and vegan and look perfectly healthful but are just full of a bunch of junk, are made for people who don't really know how to go about this process in a healthful manner. They think, oh, well, there's no meat in it, so it must be more healthful than that other version that I used to eat. But sometimes that's not the case. And sometimes you're doing just as much harm to your body as if you were to eat the first, animal-based version or whatnot. So some other examples of these foods are things like desserts, decadent vegan desserts, chips, breakfast bars, protein powders, salad dressings, granola. There are so many versions of these foods that are purported to be healthful when really they're just as crappy as your original version. These foods tend to remain really high in calories, lacking completely in nutrition. And not only that, but they continue perpetuating your cravings and your feelings of deprivation around this diet. So when you continue to put these foods on a pedestal, that is what you're going to crave. That is what you're going to think about. But if you just indulge and embrace in the whole food, plant-based aspect of this lifestyle, you're not placing status on different foods. It's just nourishment. When you try to keep a foot in both worlds, both the unhealthful dietary world and the healthful dietary world, you really cannot enjoy either. These foods don't taste as good because you're eating the highly palatable foods that are messing with your taste buds, and the highly palatable foods don't taste as good because you're messing up your taste buds with the healthful foods. So you really just need to embrace the new dietary pattern. Let go of the old junk foods. Let go of that familiarity and that comfort that you were so desperately holding on to. I completely get it. When I had to rearrange my life and my diet because of my celiac diagnosis, I was petrified. It is terrifying, especially as a college student trying to figure out what the heck I was supposed to be eating, how to take care of myself, how to cook, what foods to buy, what things to stay away from. But the sooner you can rely on yourself to manage your health and your dietary choices, the better off you're going to be. And these foods aren't unfamiliar forever. It's just for the time being until you get accustomed to them, just like with any new behavior. Soon you're going to prefer those foods. Healthful vegan dishes are going to be your new comfort foods, your new familiarity. So a tip I always give to my clients is to lead with nutrition first, then flavor. I know this sounds really counterintuitive because when we think about what the heck we want to eat for the day or the evening, we're like, that sounds really good. I'm kind of craving that. I think I'm going to pick that up on the way home because it's likely not something healthful that you've batched and have ready in your fridge, right? Our taste preferences and flavor can misguide us tremendously. So it's helpful to plan and think about your meals by means of how they are nourishing you. What is this providing me? What is this not providing me? And even more importantly, in a lot of cases, how is this harming me? But in the case of whole food plant-based, you don't even have to worry about that. Every food is going to contain nutrition. It's just a matter of balancing each of those foods and making sure you're getting, a wide variety of plants. It takes some practice, but I promise, it's so much easier than letting your taste buds take the wheel. The last mistake I'm going to talk about today is by far the most important. So this is when I see people doing instead of being. What the heck do I mean by that? If you make the decision to embrace a new lifestyle pattern, to lose weight and become the healthier version of yourself, then you can't just go through the rigmarole of the diet and the exercise, the calorie restriction, the sweating it out at the gym, calories in, calories out notions. You will burn up in a matter of weeks and go back to your old dietary pattern. But if you embrace this lifestyle, if you make a commitment to yourself to become that better version of who you know you can be, then this will be a long-term sustainable behavior. Yes, sometimes it's important to fake it until you make it, but that's only in the beginning. It's only until you start to really build those strategies and those mechanisms and those habits. So it takes typically 66 to 90 days to either build a new habit or to get rid of an old one that is no longer serving you. So in the time being, it is important to put in the motions, but there needs to be conviction. This needs to be a new way of life. There is no point in just going through the motions. You are going to wind up right where you started, or worse, having even more excess weight than you had in the first place, because we're messing with our metabolism every single time we gain and lose weight. So some examples of what I'm talking about are taking things like fruit and vegetables to social gatherings instead of the expected junk food that the majority of the guests are likely bringing. You turn down the drink and dessert menu on vacation. You go to bed early enough to be in the right headspace to make these important decisions day in and day out. Basically, there are zero exceptions in your day-to-day pattern. So it's very difficult to train your inner critic to believe that you are in fact making these changes. You are in fact having this new lifestyle. You're not going to be regressing any longer. The way to train this critic is to maintain consistency. The more and more and more patterns of your new behavior that you show your subconscious, the more your self-esteem and your confidence are going to grow. So you may not have that inner cheerleader in the beginning, but soon it's going to be old news and it's just your new lifestyle. Getting to that point is definitely the hard part, but it exists. And the miserable part of training yourself to get there is only temporary. If you are interested in some much needed assistance when it comes to these types of things, make sure you click my link in the description box below to schedule a free consultation with me. I am more than happy to work with people through this difficult transition. We all need a little support when it comes to behavior modification. We all have something that we want to change about ourselves, right? So the solution here is to really embrace the process, and you will inevitably embody the necessary persona and identity of that individual that you aspire to be. Any of us can take on new behaviors and act a certain way for a few weeks, get sick of it, and go back to our old lifestyle. But it takes a very committed, very determined individual to make the stance. This is who I want to be. This is the identity I'm going to maintain throughout the rest of my life. After a while, you don't even have to put effort into it. It just becomes who you are. That's what's important. That's the difference between doing and being. Become that healthful individual that you so deserve to be. Instead of thinking it'll just never happen to you, it's too hard, it's not in the cards for you, but it so most certainly is. Anybody can have this healthful lifestyle. You just have to make that decision. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll see you in the next one.